right, welcome to Stop Questioning Everything, the official podcast of drug receipts. This is a podcast where we talk about art, subversion, science, skepticism, um, skating, lifestyle, all the pillars of the drug receipts project. Today is February 24th, 2022, at least that's the date here in Texas, in the US. This is episode number 5, and my name is Arlo Eisenberg. I'm the host of this Drug Receipts podcast, and I am also the artist behind the Drug Receipts project. So we've got a lot on the slate today. We're going to talk about, uh, well, I guess we've got Tyler Shields on. He is one of the collaborators of Drug Receipts, along with Brooke Howard Smith and myself. And we are going to get into some traits with Tyler. We're going to talk about art. We're going to talk about his photography. And we're going to look at some of the crossovers into the Drug Receipts NFT collection. Some of them you will have already seen on the Discord, but there are some that you haven't seen yet. And so we're going to drop some brand new traits here, some brand new alpha, and probably, maybe even a super exclusive one of one. For anyone who saw the episode last time, we dropped the our first sneak peek look at the Cap Red Devil. That was a one of one. So we'll see what we can dig up for you guys here. But I think if you stick around, you'll like what we have. It's something very special. As always, at the end of the show, we'll get into a little more long form, deep conversation. We'll do some skeptic talk. We're gonna mess with the arrangement of the show a little bit, the structure. But to most of you, you probably won't even notice. So before we get into our routine checkup, where we're going to check in with Jesse and we'll go over some news items, because we've got plenty of news items, I'll just go over a few brief things. Actually, I was on the 11th Hour podcast earlier this afternoon with Brooke. That's the Fluff World podcast hosted by Brooke. And he introduced Drug Receipts to the Fluff community. Some of you are already from the Fluff community. You guys got in early, but he announced it to the broader audience. So we'll see what impact that has on our community here. We do expect to see more of the Fluffle represented around here, around our Discord and other Drug Receipts properties. But when we check in with Jesse, we'll talk about all the new communities coming into the Drug Receipts community, and we'll introduce and welcome all of them. So on Brooke's 11th Hour podcast, he began with a very eloquent acknowledgement of the global conflict right now, the strife. Russia has invaded Ukraine, so that is throwing the entire world into a bit of, if not chaos, certainly it's cause for everyone to be concerned. So I would like to acknowledge that as well. Brooke, as he mentioned on his podcast, they actually have several team members that are in Ukraine, so it was very personal and close for them. But we are all affected by this, so I would like to acknowledge it. We've even been getting some comments in our Discord and on our other social media. It looks like some other projects have been delaying their mints or have been just trying to show some kind of deference or decorum related to the global conflict. And I'd like to tell you that we are doing that also. In fact, I would like to be able to use that as an excuse, because regardless of the global conflict, the truth is, I don't think that it's very likely that we were going to make our deadline, or that we're going to make our deadline. Last time we met, about 2 weeks ago, for the last Stop Questioning Everything podcast, we'd said, we've got a very hard, firm cutoff date of March 1st. because that's when the lead programmer goes out of town and won't be available. And that may all still be true, but the feeling I'm getting from the non-fungible team is that we'll be able to work around that, because as of the last update that I got from them, they're feeling like we're about 2 weeks away from being able to mint. And guys, listen, I am as anxious to get to mint as anyone, believe me. But it's like the nightmare or the dream that we've all had where, you're running down a long corridor, and the closer you get to the door at the end, the further away it gets from you. And that's just what it feels like with this project. It is just such a massive undertaking. We've talked before about what's happened with having four main characters in our release, and they each have different body types. And each one is a giant spreadsheet unto itself for the blacklist. And if you're not familiar with what a blacklist is, many of you I'm sure already are, but I'll go ahead and peel the curtain back on that just a little bit. We all know what the whitelist is, right? Everybody is trying to get on the whitelist. Many of you already have a whitelist spot, and that just guarantees you first access to the collection when it's released. It means that you'll have an opportunity to pick up a drug receipt when we first start minting. But the blacklist is something that we do on the back end. That's sort of a development project. And basically what it is just a giant Excel spreadsheet or a Google sheet. And it's just got every single trait listed on it, on both axes. It lists every trait going down, every trait going across, and then you just do yes or no for every trait, and you got to figure out what traits go together and what traits can't go together. And when you have hundreds of traits, essentially different variations, and then it's compounded because you have hundreds of traits times 4 different body types. So whereas, Fluff had a blacklist and Party Bear had a blacklist, we have 4 blacklists. We have one for each one of our characters. So all this is to say, really, I'm making excuses because we are going to miss our self-imposed deadline. And, as much as I would love listen, I don't want to make light of a very serious and heavy topic, but I could have very easily come on here and said, guys, there's so much turmoil in the world right now that we just think it would be appropriate to delay our mint, by a couple of weeks, and that would kind of get us off the hook. But really, I'm telling you here in full disclosure, full transparency, this is just a case of good old fashioned missing deadlines. So we're going to own that. But like I said, we're not giving you any dates because I'm tired of not hitting dates, but I feel like it sounds like the consensus is we're about 2 weeks away from mint. And I'll tell you what, it would be great if this thing was minted before we go to South by Southwest. So that's what it's called, right? South by Southwest. That would be a great deadline to give us something to work toward. I mean, not that we need anything to work toward, because we are working our butts off, really. You can ask Don, our moderator. He is not sleeping very much right now. So we're trying to get this thing done. So that answers when mint. The mint price is not changing, right? We've been saying, we announced last time officially that it's going to be around 0.08, 0.09. That is still holding firm, even though crypto is so volatile still. But so guys, that was just some housekeeping we wanted to get out of the way. Let's go ahead and get into our routine checkup with Jesse. Jesse, are you here? Let's bring you up.
Oh no. One
Oh,
moment.
cool. You have a background.
Is it too much?
I love it.
Well,
Great. That's awesome.
right? No, Arlo, thank you so much for being candid and delivering the news that I'm going to have to re-deliver in the Discord here soon. But thank you. Yeah, it's been a process, guys. I mean, getting to mint is an ongoing goal, and we're working towards it. But like Arlo said, I think if we're able to mint before South by Southwest, that'll be amazing because we're gonna be there. um, so
Yeah, and
here in the
Jesse, I
coming
just sorry, I know we just brought you on to do the news, but this is kind of interactive because I can see the chat, and I just want to acknowledge something. Blake says it shouldn't
yeah.
matter so much. The crypto is volatile, and he's right. No, it shouldn't, and it doesn't. That's why we're pretty confident in the mint price. We had such a long run up to our actual mint because we started our Discord like a couple months ago. Um,
Mhm.
so right, that only gives you room for something, catastrophic, a black swan event, either a giant surge in price or a giant crash. But yes, most of the crypto volatility we can stomach. So thanks for that, Blake. And Jesse, sorry about that.
No, I think that's important. Absolutely. It's we're our industry changes by the second. So we're just going at it. So guys, no, super exciting news. We're going to be at South by Southwest this year. I don't know if you guys heard in the 11th hour, but Fluff World is the title sponsor, the title B VR extended reality sponsor at South by. So you guys can catch us at the Geodomes near downtown. What day? I think it's the 12th and the 13th. Catch us along with the other non-fungible projects under the Geodome where you'll get to shake our hands and possibly more. Like
Your
check out a
background
panel.
is so cool. It's like totally like I'm just completely captivated by it. And the green like pops off the purple background. It's really cool. And you've got the bright beanie. I mean, man, you came prepared. I love it.
I had to. I had to. Thank you, Arlo. Well, you did choose these colors, so you might be a little biased.
I'm kind of complimenting myself, I guess.
We need it. No, but guys, no, and people have the opportunity to compliment you in person. I might be dropping a little bit of event alpha here, but snugglers, if you are at South by Southwest in the final week, the last weekend, the weekend of the 18th, we're working on an opportunity for you guys to come party and hang out with us. More details on that soon. I can't say too much, but all I can say is those 2 weekends of South by with the Geodomes on the first weekend and the planned Snuggler meetup. I could definitely say that South by is going to be a hoot, a holler, a howdy all the way this year. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Is Dia suggesting drug receipts cosplay? Do people wear
I'm
costumes
open
at
to
South?
it. You know, I
Yeah,
think
they probably do in the
there's a lot
XR
of
domes.
yeah. Yes, you know what? If anyone comes with well, I don't want to make any promises on here, but I would like to see a Tabby cosplay,
Yeah.
especially I don't know, maybe in some cool traits that we'll reveal to later today, but I am not gonna say much anymore. I'm gonna shut up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna move on to Twitter. Guys, if you are not on the whitelist, you do have an opportunity to get on the whitelist by joining in on the drug receipts art contest, the This Is Your Brain on Drug Receipts art contest. We've had some incredible entries so far. For these coveted whitelist spots. As the window is closing, so are the opportunities to get whitelisted. So, guys, I don't know, Joellen, can we show some of the entries that we've had so far? So, this one's great. This is from Stinky the Great One on Twitter. You guys can vote for,
I
I think
love
he
it.
calls this cat burn, heartburn. The variety of spice is the essence of life. And Arlo, would you agree?
Works for me. I love it. Variety of spice.
Love it.
Yep. Hot pepper.
Perfect.
That was
So
so
up
cool.
next, this one is a really awesome entry. This is from NFT Melichi. I hope I'm saying that right. This is, I think she calls it the Tabby Road.
Really
So
cute.
it's super, super cute. You can tell that, I mean, this was micron precision. I don't want to get too nerdy, but microns, I don't know if you guys draw out there, are like the king of inking. That's all I'm going to say about that.
It's good pen control. Yeah, she's got other great art on her Twitter. She's a talented artist.
Absolutely. And she has the most votes out of all the entries on going on in the contest right now. So
Ah,
I
good.
think it
Very cool.
speaks to her work. Definitely. And up next, Joel, and yes, the Snuggler's graffiti. I love this one in particular. Dawn had pointed out there is a Senate tattoo on this cap illustration.
It is Dawn. It's a cap version of, it's a picture of Dawn.
It's so good. I mean, honestly, guys, you'd be surprised at how many people in our communities have Senate or ghost brand tattoos. I mean, it's incredible. Maybe that could be another trait that we offer down the line. I don't know. I've
I
said too
love that he
much.
wrote snugglers on the wall. That was so cool. Those are all so cool. And I've seen so many on Twitter, and some of them have been posted in our Discord. It's just really fun to see what people are coming up with. I love it.
Yeah, we really have some really talented people in the community. And guys, if like I said, if you guys haven't already gotten in on the art contest, we've extended the contest to Sunday, um, 5 p.m. CST our time. That would be Monday at noon in New Zealand. So you guys get in on that. It's a great opportunity. And Arlo himself, you are going to be selecting 9 out of 10 of the winners, which is really exciting. You get to play art director again.
It's going to be hard to choose. There's so much great stuff out there.
There really is. Like I said, we have a great, great community of super talented artists. And if you guys are not, just be sure to get in on the contest and follow us on twitter.com/drug receipts. So that's good news. The second best piece of news. Oh, actually, no, that would be our third best piece of news. Is guys, we've had such an amazing amount of community members get in on the drug receipts server in the last 48 hours. It's been great. We have people from Neo Tokyo, Groundhog Seekers, Party Bears, Fluff. And yeah, we're just stoked to have you guys snuggling in the community. I think it's going to be a really, really interesting next couple of weeks, guys. So, but yeah, I think that about. Whoa. No, it doesn't wrap it. Sorry, my bad. Guys, oh, I get to say it. It's like have you guys ever watched Disney Channel and they have the little the wand thing and they'd be like, "Oh, this is so and so and you're watching Disney Channel." I just want to say, while you're here, be sure to like and subscribe to
Oh,
Drug
nice.
Receipts here on
Yeah.
YouTube. And if you guys aren't familiar, if you guys haven't checked out the rest of what's going on in our channel, you can find full episodes of Stop Questioning Everything, the podcast, as well as full audio recordings of our Discord Q&A and STFU, where you can get to know our community just a little bit better. So that is all I have for the routine checkup. Take me away.
Cool. Well done, Jesse. And
Yeah.
I'm going to add one more thing kind of to the housekeeping notes that Jesse was providing there. For those of you that are listening on just to the audio broadcast of this, we just went through where we're showing some images of the art. We do encourage you to join the YouTube. You can check this out, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can see all of the art that we're showing. And we're going to have some leaks and sneak previews coming up later on in the podcast, and we're going to show some of Tyler's art. As much as we can help it, we'll try and be descriptive and let you know what we're looking at. We don't want to leave anyone out, but a picture's worth 1,000 words, and there's nothing like actually seeing the art for yourself. So definitely, if you get the chance, check out the images on YouTube. Also, I don't know if Jesse said this explicitly, but speaking of looking at leaks on YouTube, we did trim out just about a 10-minute clip from last week's episode of Stop Questioning Everything. And it's just the 10 minutes where we are looking at super exclusive traits and art. So for anyone that missed that, you don't have to listen to the whole 2-hour podcast to find the traits and the drops. You can just go find our little 10-minute clip on our YouTube channel for Drug Receipts, and you can just go straight to the good stuff. We think it's all good stuff, but if you want to see the art, we've provided it there for you to make it easy. So I think we can bring up our guest. He's been waiting backstage long enough. Tyler, let's bring in our featured guest. Tyler Shields. Hey, Tyler, how are you?
Good, buddy. How you doing?
Good, good. Is that too long to make someone wait?
I think if we have
Were you listening to the news?
guests, if we have guests that are not me or part of the project, I think we should probably maybe switch the format a little bit. I like.
I don't know. I don't know. So
talk.
I'm glad you said that because honestly, for the past all the episodes before this one, I would have made you sit through like 2 more long form discussions for the double dose.
Got it.
But I've actually moved those to the end just to get you up sooner. So we are working toward, I think, what your ideal is.
Yeah.
But
it wasn't bad though.
We're not. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to get all the way because I think we've got to start with news. It's just our news keeps getting longer and longer. So maybe if the news gets too big, maybe we will just have to put the featured guest right up the front. So thanks for bearing with us on this one.
Oh, I see Vicky, Arthur, Scott Walker.
Yeah, they're all here.
The whole posse's in here.
You know, I've been playing this game where I'm watching the chat, but it's not Discord, and I'm used to so many of these people from Discord. So I'm trying to like decipher the names. I see SAT Commander's in there. I see Mr. LB is in there, Dia, but none of them are using the same handles. So it just takes a little bit of deciphering. But I know who you are, Tyler. No deciphering needed.
You remember me?
I remember you very well. So in fact, it was only a couple of weeks ago, or feels like it was only a couple of weeks ago, that I was staying with you out in LA when I came out for Fluff House, and you and I got to go attend that event. What did you think of it?
That's true. I mean, I thought the event was incredible. It was at the Peterson Automotive Museum, which is obviously a crazy place. And it was just such a large scale event, especially for something that's so new. The NFT community is very new. Fluff was very new. And they were putting on an event. I've done events with companies like Samsung that weren't that big. Right. So it was incredible to see.
Yeah, it was impressive. I flew out on Friday, and the party was on Friday, and this was after just one of our hell weeks. I think at that time I was still doing agency and drug receipts. So I mean, just very, very little sleep and just a whole lot of hours. And then the party was that night. We didn't stay too long. We definitely didn't close down the place. But I was so tired, in fact, that when you wanted to go through a Wendy's drive-through at the end to get Frosties,
yes,
I couldn't even stay awake for that. And
that
is saying something because I'll never turn down a Frosty.
That's right. I could have gone through, you could have been asleep, and then I would have woken you up by handing you one. You would have eaten the whole thing, then fallen back asleep.
Yeah. What a way to wake up.
You were out. It was definitely, and it's a lot, going to those events. Was that the biggest event you'd been to since the whole pandemic and everything?
Oh, that's a good question. But I guess probably, right? Almost certainly.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I hadn't even thought about that. Yeah. It's been a long time since I've been to a big thing like that.
Yeah.
So Tyler, what we're going to do today, I think, is since, we're so close to mint, and the art really is all wrapped up. And each week we've been sharing more and more with the community of what we've got in store. Last week we shared the Red Devil, the version of Cap, which I see that Bill Green has got as a PFP. Very sharp looking there. That was a definite exclusive first look. And we've got some more of those. In fact, some stuff I think that you haven't even seen yet. So I'm excited to share that with you.
Okay.
But you'll have to stick around for that because we're going to work our way up to it. We'll talk about some traits. But I think it'll be interesting to get kind of some of your insight, right? The ideas that went into your work that inspired these things. So let's go ahead and do it. Let's start getting into the traits. So we can bring up Tyler's first piece of work because what I want to talk about here, Joellen, I think it's the bunny ears, right?
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
because right, so it's Tyler, it's you and me and Brooke, right? We're the
Yep.
collaborators behind drug receipts. And
That's right.
the bunny ears kind of like are a recurring theme running through all the projects. We definitely know what fluff is, but
Yep.
you use bunny ears a lot in your work. You want to
Yep.
talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, I'd say probably in 2009, I had this idea to do a series of people in masks, right? And so basically over that whole period of time, as I would come across masks or find different masks, or oh, I want to do Catwoman, or I want to do the Bunny, or Batman, or whatever. I was always constantly, but slowly working on this mask series. And so I did this image, which is called Bunny, and this image went to auctions. It's now sold out. It kind of just made the rounds everywhere. Um, and so as I did that, then I started finding other bunny masks and started just kind of creating this little mini bunny series within the mask series. And this was the original bunny piece.
Very cool. So let's look at the next one, Joel, and this is going to be right. So the bunny ears
Uh-huh.
made it into
Yes.
drug receipts, and this is a
Yep.
nod to all the partners, right? This kind of brings it all together between Tyler and Brooke and the Fluffle. Tabby here is walking through the rainbow gum. So with a lot of our traits, there's variety in the colors, and that will contribute to the rarity. So here, the rainbow gum will be more rare than the pink gum, for
Right.
instance. Um, Similarly, she's got a Band-Aid there. We do have a pink Band-Aid and we have an orange Band-Aid. But much like fluff, there's going to be at least 3 degrees of separation between any two characters or any two NFTs. So no one's going to have your exact PFP with only a different color Band-Aid. There will be plenty of variation so that every NFT will be unique. But it's just another way to just kind of fill the entire collection up with variety, make them all fun and fresh and interesting. So let's look at another piece of work. Aha.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody will recognize what the inspiration here is. Tyler, I believe this is from your Wizard of Oz series. Is that right?
It's the fairy tale series.
Fairy tale series. Thank you. That's
Yeah,
why
yeah,
you're here. Well,
that's
tell
right.
us about it.
Yeah. So what was fun about this is, I'd started doing this series kind of based on just either fairy tales or movies that have that fairy tale feeling. And so of course, when I started doing that research, I obviously came across Wizard of Oz, which is a movie I watched obviously when I was a kid. And The Wizard of Oz was one of the first movies ever to use a process called Technicolor. Okay.
Mhm.
Technicolor was, essentially one of the first color processes, right? So it used 3 different colors. It used yellow, red, and blue, and it would shoot actually each one of those film strips individually. Well, there's a printing process called dye transfer, and there were only one person left in the world that had chemicals to create a dye transfer print. And he was just this old guy, and he retired in the 90s, and he just had the chemicals. So I called him up and said, "Hey, can you make me some dye transfer prints?" And he said, "Yes." Now, mind you, that's the same process that they use for the Wizard of Oz. So then you're like, okay, well, I want to do ruby slippers, but you don't want to just go on Amazon and order ruby slippers. So I found someone who makes these shoes by hand. They are exactly like the ruby slippers that were used in the movie,
Wow.
down to the T. This pair of shoes took 4 months to be made.
Wow.
And funny enough, it was a woman I believe she was in New Zealand.
Oh, wow.
Yep. So she makes the shoes. And again, you have this idea, and then imagine if you wanted to draw something, but then you had to wait 4 months, right, to draw it. So then
Well,
the
that's
shoes
kind of how I'm feeling right now.
exactly. So then the shoes finally come in, and then I'm like, okay, I'm like dying to shoot the photo. So we were gonna build, a yellow brick road in my backyard, but then of course it was the 1 week in the year that it rained in Los Angeles. So I ended up building the entire yellow brick road in my house
Oh, wow.
for this photo. Yeah, and so yeah,
When
we
you
ended
say
up
build it,
shooting this.
what did you use?
We used bricks. So we painted and did the
Wow.
actual bricks, and yeah, it was, went and picked up a pallet of bricks and had one of my guys paint them all, and we laid them all out. Because I didn't know how exactly wide or tight I wanted the final product to be. And then when we did this, I used so much light to take this photograph. So this was on a large format camera,
Uh-huh.
and we used so much light that we built a light tent around us.
Yeah.
So you see in the slippers that they have this real glow, and there's no real reflection in them. So we built this whole light tent, and the light was so intense when it would go off that Allie, who's in the photograph, it made her nauseous. Like
No
she
way.
almost passed out because the light was so. She said that when her eyes were closed, she could still see the light through her eyelids. That's how bright it was.
Wow.
So yeah,
So did
that's the story
Dorothy
of that.
wear blue socks?
She did, yes. They don't pop quite as much in the movie, but yeah, it was. And the ruby slippers were actually made red, and they were ruby slippers because that's the process that they used in the movie because of Technicolor. The yellow brick road
Oh,
was
huh.
made to be yellow. These things were all designed
How interesting.
because of Technicolor.
Uh-huh. Very, very interesting. How
Yeah.
cool.
Yep.
And another thing that's interesting kind of about this and that might have some application or utility for drug receipts,
Mhm.
because photographs are kind of like digital art in that it's not paint, it's not drawing, that it's a negative and it can be reprinted. And it it in I guess what I'm getting at is if you wanted to take a digital piece of art, if you wanted to take your drug receipt NFT, for instance, and do a print of it, it'd be similar to making a print of a photograph.
Mhm.
So the idea that there are some really interesting techniques out there for printing that can really
Yes.
add depth and distinction to your
Yep.
print, I think, and you as someone who like have mastered that, and you are
Mhm.
finding all these sort of almost forgotten techniques that have been abandoned by photographers. I think that that's really cool and something that we can lean into in the future. Is like for
Yeah.
some some real drug receipt prints.
The most fascinating thing about this process to me is museums and auction houses love this process.
Yeah.
So if a normal print from an old deceased famous photographer would be $100,000, a dye transfer print would be $500,000 or $600,000
Right.
because these prints last, they say, for up to 2 to 3 thousand years.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Uh, Joellen, go ahead and bring up the next slide because let's look at how this is translated into the drug receipts collection. So
Uh-huh.
this took me 4 months to draw the ruby red
Hey.
slipper there. But you can see you see the colors. You've got kind of your
Yep.
yellow brick road background, which again,
Yep.
the backgrounds will be variable. This
Right.
one, these happen to have been curated by me, but just to give you an idea of what's out there. But she is wearing the ruby red slipper and she's got the blue sock just like Dorothy. But so I did something interesting with this. And you can see there that she's got the pitchfork. So that will be a
Yeah.
trait that's in the collection. It's not just for the red devil, one of ones, but the red devil has a red arm, and so that the all redded out characters, those are exclusive, those are one of ones, but the actual pitchfork trait can make it into the collection. And here you can see that Tabby's got horns as well and a broken halo. But the floor on the fluff, the female fluffs, just keeps going up and up and up because there's only like half as many females as there are male fluffs. And they're going to be, you're going to need to have a female if you want to breed your fluffs. So they're in high demand. And I will browse every so often and just see what's happening with the female fluffs, because I wanted to get in on it. I wanted to get one so bad, but just the timing didn't work out. And now I really just feel like I've been priced out of it. But I happened to see one that came across, my screen, and it was well below floor, and I couldn't believe it. And I just, I was tapping my keyboard as quickly as I could to try and scoop it up. But in the process of doing my due diligence, I noticed that it actually was not a female; it was a male. And for anyone in the fluffle, they will know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm just showing my own ignorance here, but there are male fluffs that wear tube tops. The tube tops look like they are, for women, and there's not that much differentiation between the body types of the male and the female fluff. So when they're wearing a tube top, it's kind of hard to tell that it's actually not a female. So once I found out that it was a male wearing a tube top, I thought, well, maybe that's a mistake, or surely this can't be right. And then I searched it, and there were something like 300 of them in the tube top. So it's definitely built into their blacklist. And when I asked Brooke about it, apparently it is actually a deliberate thing, right? It's sort of a gender neutral trait, that either, that it's not tied to any particular gender. So why can't the male fluffs wear a tube top? So similarly, along those lines, let's go ahead and look at the next slide. And I want some feedback on this. Tell me what you think of this, Tyler. So here, Siren also wearing the ruby slipper. It's the one slipper. And Siren here also has not the standard bunny ears, but the bandaged bunny ears. And this is a direct nod to the Fluffle and to Fluff World, because they have the bandaged bunny ear in as one of their character traits. But I liked the idea of having the one slipper be available to any of the characters. I just think that there's something kind of fun and interesting about it. And the main concern for me, honestly, and this is nothing, I don't know how this will be taken, but the fluffs, the male fluffs wearing the tube tops, actually, you know what, this is probably just my own issue, right? That I'm not able to see kind of through the gender differences. But to me, they don't look that aesthetically appealing. And I'm not sure if the male fluffs and tube tops are flying off the shelves exactly. But for me, as long as there's something aesthetically interesting and appealing about it, and to me, this example of Siren looks cool. So that's kind of all the justification I need. I think it looks fun, and I think it looks cool. So unless there's a whole lot of pushback from the community, and I'll definitely be jumping into Discord later and looking for people's feedback. I can see some response here in the chat right now, and it seems to be all favorable.
Yeah, I think it looks great.
Yeah, I think it's cool. You like it?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's not about, obviously, will there be, 2 or 3 people that are like, oh, I don't get it or whatever. Sure. But that, you're going to have that with anything you do. But I think there's just something interesting about this, especially with the bunny ears and the ruby slipper, the color palette. It all works to me. Yeah.
Well, this is, talking about our delayed mint. One of the things that is causing the delays, because we're very close to having all the blacklist done and having all the assets ready. But you have to build in time to do QA, the quality assurance. You have to run these generators. You have to run the programs and see what the script spits out, so that we can, if we see some really just unappealing or unattractive combinations, we've got to adjust the blacklist to get rid of them. We want the collection to be cool. We want everyone to come out cool. We're sure that there will be things unexpected and exciting, combinations, something like this perhaps, but we just want to make sure that everything looks great. So we are definitely doing our due diligence. We're definitely making sure that we have the time to do good quality assurance and run some tests. Right. Let's go ahead and look at the next one, because I think there's more to discuss regarding these ruby slippers. Tyler, this one came well before the last series, right?
Oh yeah, this is old. Yeah,
this is taking it back, right, to your
2008.
Yeah. What can you tell us about this one? I mean, this is so provocative and interesting. You've got the blood on the sock and the shoe. Like, I mean, what's going on here?
Yeah, so it's funny because I named the new series Fairy Tale as a nod to this picture. And you and I hadn't even talked about this, so I didn't know you were going to show this.
Yeah.
But you know, it's a similar type thing. Back then, I had started doing this series with Ruby Slippers, but in a much kind of more dirty. I was doing a project called The Dirty Side of Glamour, right? And so I thought, well, okay, Ruby Slippers are, you know, so glamorous, right? You know, what does it look like if they're covered in blood?
Yeah.
And so, you know, this is obviously a nod to the film, but almost as if Tarantino had directed, you know, The Wizard of Oz, right? Blood is everywhere, kind of for no reason. You don't know what it is. And so, yeah, the Yellow Brick Road was a sequel to this picture.
That's cool.
Maybe a prequel, I should say.
Yeah, exactly right. Which came first?
Yeah.
Luke Berryman pointed out that she is holding the wand there that Jesse was referencing, the one that the Disney the Disney cast used to do their little draw the Mickey Mouse ears on camera.
That's right.
But you know, this idea of taking things that, you know, that historically kind of have one sensibility, you know, that whether if it's something happy or positive or upbeat or whatever it is, and then finding some way to put a twist on it, to put some kind of like a dangerous twist on it or something provocative. That's something that features a lot in Drug Receipts and in my work in particular. Dia mentioned, you know, when we were showing Tabby and she was striding with her shoelaces knotted and she had her heel was stuck in bubble gum. And I think Dia asked, is that symbolic of anything? Or maybe Jamie asked. It was one of them, one of our Tabby PFPs. And the idea is that pretty much every trait that I include, and really this is true of everything I draw, honestly, I'm always trying to think of how can I take whatever it is and put some kind of like an unfortunate spin on it, or a kind of a provocative spin on it. Or I think someone earlier, maybe it even was in our pre-show, someone referred to a comment as sort of being like in the tone of Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh. But there is a lot of that kind of runs through the art in Drug Receipts. So, you know, if they're running, what would make running just, you know, a rainy Monday? You know, what would make it just kind of a bad day? And so your shoelaces got tied together. You ran through gum. You scraped your knee and you've got a Band-Aid. It's just, you know, it's kind of a response to who wants to be happy all the time. And I feel like that's not even perfectly articulating kind of what the feeling is. I think the feeling is more about, you know, I have a slogan that says more war, right? Where the characters hold a sign that says more war. And that I think almost will best illustrate kind of the idea that I'm going for here. And that was a direct response to signs or slogans or t-shirts that say, what do they say? World peace, you know? And for me, and God, I guess really given the current political climate, this is kind of an interesting, or maybe a poor choice in time to be having this conversation. But it's really not about war or not war. It's about the potency of a message. And some messages become so ubiquitous and their message is so uncontroversial that they just essentially become meaningless. If you see them, they are just, you know, it's just ink on a shirt, basically. It's just ink on a bumper sticker. It doesn't mean anything anymore. And so as a marketer and an artist, I'm always looking for ways to infuse messages with meaning, to infuse art with meaning. And so if you just see a character running, there's not that much to capture your imagination or your interest. But if you put a twist on it, if you put blood on the sock, if you tie the laces together, now people are engaged. They are emotionally interested or invested in it. So there's, you know what, I didn't get to indulge myself with a double dose at the beginning, but I just worked just a little bit of a long form conversation in there. Thanks, Tyler.
Awesome.
So looking at these 2 ruby slippers with the blood, Joellen, let's go ahead and look at the next slide. Let's see how this can be incorporated into drug receipts.
Yes.
Boom. There you go. So what's going on here, Tyler, the reason we had the 1 ruby slipper with the blue sock before is because I wanted to make a distinction. The ruby slipper with the blue sock will only ever appear by itself. It won't ever appear with both of the other ruby slipper as well. And that one is available to all the characters. But this setup right here, both of the ruby slippers with the bloody sock, Tabby is the only one who will ever get that. So that is super rare for Tabby. And the bloody sock, it makes it even more rare because, it's sort of rarity stacked on top of rarity. She's the only character that can have it. The only edition of it. Yeah.
I haven't seen this one yet. So this is the first time I'm seeing this.
Oh, awesome. Well,
yeah,
cool. If you like that, there's plenty more in store. And she's holding a sign there that says "See ya," but I was just talking about the More War one. There's also a More War version of that one.
Right.
And she's got the gold crown on. So some interesting,
I love it.
Some interesting traits in here. But for the purposes of this conversation, we're looking at the set of the ruby slippers with the bloody sock. But now for everyone listening and looking, you see the direct inspiration in the form of Tyler's work. And for those of you listening, if you're just listening, definitely make sure that you check out the YouTube video of this so you can see what we're talking about, because it's just really cool stuff. And Tyler's work, if you haven't seen it, definitely look it up. I mean, it's no question. It's not hard to see why he is such a renowned and sought after artist. So let's see what's next, Joellen.
That one looks awesome.
Aha.
Okay.
So the ruby slippers, to anyone who's been active in our Discord or followed our Discord, we've shown the ruby slippers. In fact, there are several PFPs in the chat right now that have ruby slippers on. So that's not news to anyone. It's not new alpha for anyone. I think the backstory is really interesting, and that's probably new for most people. But actually seeing the traits, that wasn't new. But this, I think, is leading to something new. So Tyler, you mentioned at the beginning that you did a whole series with masks, and that you were fascinated with masks. We looked at the bunny ears that you had. I'm guessing that this sort of falls in that category.
Yes, and this is also a custom mask. So I had this mask made.
Oh, really? It's really cool.
Yeah, it's from Tim Burton's Batman, which Michelle Pfeiffer wore in the movie, and so this is like a actual, I guess, replica of that mask.
Huh. Very cool. And lips, Tyler, are something that feature prominently in your work, and lips with cigarettes sometimes. But I mean, you have had some of your most iconic work features just portraits of lips, right?
That's right.
So this is iconic. This is great. And the next slide, I think, is going to show kind of as we sort of work our way toward the drug receipts rendition of this. This is your own pop rendition of your own art. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, obviously, as I had kind of started selling art, I remember I went into someone's house and they had a Warhol in the house. And it was the first time I'd ever seen one in person. And so I remember seeing the Warhol and just being so blown away by it. I think it's easy to look at a Warhol online and be like, well, okay. But when you see the actual screen print, it looks incredible.
Yeah.
So I'd always had this idea of like, I want to do a screen print one day. And so for no good reason, I just called up one of my galleries and said, hey, I want to do a screen print. I've got this image. It's a Catwoman image, and I think it would be a great screen print. And so we actually did this as a limited edition screen print, which it sold out day one when we did it. So yeah, this is an actual, this is now a photograph of an actual screen print.
And to take it even a level deeper, then these also became part of your
Yes.
NFT pop art release, right?
Yeah, and so then after I had done this, I wanted to do kind of a, a pop art, PFP project. And so I ended up doing a collection of, of a bunch of different portraits, which is something that you actually worked on me with. And I believe that was like kind of your first foray into the whole NFT world, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And so, of course, like whenever I have anything that I don't know how to do, I would always call Arlo, right? So I'd be like, Arlo, do you know anything about this? Do you know how to do this? Because the person who helped me with my original screen print, they don't make screen prints anymore. Arlo and I get on the phone. He's like, we can do this. As always, anytime I call him with some, crazy thing, he's like, oh, hey, I know a guy, or I know how to do it, or we can learn how to do it, or whatever. And so he indulged me. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong here, Arlo, but I think I said to you, I would like to have them all done in a week. Is that right?
And yes, just the story of my life. Everything's due now, all the time.
Yes. Yeah. So, of course, we had to figure out the process, learn how to do it. Arlo got on it, helped me make them. And then I believe we did it in, I think it was like 4 or 5 days. We did the whole thing, which was 100 unique NFTs.
Yeah, which is why Tyler, every time I have a conversation with Tyler about the project, all he wants to know, he's just like everybody in the Discord. He's like, when mint, right? When mint.
Yeah.
He wants to know when it's coming out. And it's probably because of stuff like that. He knows we could turn something around just a few days.
Yes.
So he's like, what are we doing here? Right?
Yeah. Yes.
6 months.
Well,
what's going on?
Well, that's the thing. Like, I've called you and said, hey, I want to make some hoodies. And can we make them in, 8 days? And you're like, yeah. And then I have them in 7 days. Right. Or I say, hey, I want to make a full life magazine to scale. Yeah. And then 3 days later, you're literally sending me like videos of it being printed. Right.
Right.
So yeah, it's, I'm used to what we refer to as the Arlo timeline. Right.
Yeah. And this, honestly, I think the reason that we probably are missing our mint dates is there's probably some element of that where I just have this belief. I feel like I can get stuff done. Right. But this is just such a different scale from anything that I've ever been involved with. It's so massive and there's so many moving parts. And honestly, so many things that are just kind of out of our control.
Yeah. And also, when I was doing all this stuff, that's all I had to do, right? All I have to do in my life is just make art and put art out and whatever. And, at that point, you were doing a whole other job. You were doing many other things and living as a human. And there's a couple times, like I work a lot, right? I typically only don't work about 2 or 3 hours a day. And Arlo was on even a higher pace than I was. And there were a couple of times where I would call you and say, I don't know if you remember this, but I'd be like, go on a walk, eat, right? Like, stop.
Yeah.
So, if I'm saying it, then it's pretty bad.
I went on a couple of walks last weekend or last week, specifically because of your advice. And each time I wanted to call you just to be like, hey, I'm on a walk. But it really does make such a difference.
Yeah, you have to sometimes, get away from it and move your body around. Otherwise, you make the work much harder.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Tyler, we've done a lot of setup here with this great, beautiful work that you've presented that you're sharing with us. But let's see how this inspired drug receipts. Let's see what this looks like in our collection. Because this is something that I don't think people have seen before.
I love this one.
Yeah. So this is really cool, right? We've got the Catwoman mask. Direct inspiration from your model there and from the custom mask you guys had made up. She's got the red lipstick. She's got the cigarette. She's got the attitude. Yeah, this is just really, really cool.
I'm I hope that I get one of these in the mint when I do my mint. I really want one of these, but it happens.
You know what? If you get one of these, you can probably hang on to it. I think that we have said the one of ones, if just by chance, because it's all completely random, we have no control over it. But
that's true.
but if anyone on the payroll, basically, if anyone making money from drug receipts gets a 1 of 1, they've got to give it back. It's got to
That's right.
basically go back into the pool, because no matter, even if we can show, complete transparency, guys, that we had nothing to do
Yeah.
with it, the optics of it would just be so bad.
And it's so funny because we all kind of had that same thought independently.
Yeah.
And then kind of just said it to each other. Like, I was like, well, if I get one of the rare ones, like, I mean, I can't keep it,
Yeah.
And you were like, oh yeah, no, we got to get rid of them. But again, as it is random and we are genuinely not doing any type of rigging. I'm just curious to see what I get when I mint my piece. You know what I mean? I'm fascinated by that part of it as well.
I know, right? Because I'm excited. I want to see what I get, because I'm going to get some. I want to see what I get, and like I'll be rooting for like the coolest one I can get. But in a way, I also have to kind of root not to get too cool of one.
Yes,
you know what I mean. It's kind of weird.
So someone's asking, is this one a 1 of 1?
So who asked that? So Luke asked. So this is not a 1 of 1. The Catwoman mask will be randomized. It will be extremely rare, but it will not be a 1 of 1.
Yeah.
But since you asked, I do have a 1 of 1 to share. This is super exciting because no one has seen this yet. This is
not even me.
Not even you, Tyler.
This is like the mint.
And talking about rarity,
for the Batman mask on the mint.
Tyler, last time we showed the Red Devil, okay?
Yep.
And we have 4 main characters: Cap, Rex, Tabby, Siren. Each one of those characters will get a Red Devil treatment. So that's 4 1 of 1s right there accounted for. So those are super rare, but there's, at least 4 characters are going to have Red Devils.
Yeah.
Joel, let's go ahead and bring up the next slide while we talk about it.
Is this the one I haven't seen yet?
This is one that no one has seen, Tyler. So there you go.
Fantastic.
So this is Tabby in the full Catwoman suit, leathered out with the
I didn't think you were going to have this ready.
What's that?
I didn't think you said you were working on something and you didn't think you were going to have it ready. And then that was just you doing your showmanship.
Yeah, Tyler, that's what I do, right? I get stuff done.
Is this a 1 of 1?
This is a 1 of 1. Not only is it a 1 of 1, but I'm thinking, if my math is correct, this will probably be the most rare one in the entire collection, because no other character can get the Catwoman suit or any of the Catwoman traits. So whereas the other characters can all be devils, and they maybe can all be other things yet to be determined, the only one who can be this is Tabby. So that is a true 1 of 1.
Wow.
And it is freaking sick.
Well done, Arlo.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, so
that is sick.
Yeah, grab that, screenshot that, and throw that on your PFP if you want some fire.
Yeah, hold on, let me do it. Whoever mints that one, please message me. Just so I can know who has it.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
I was really excited to share this one. I've just sort of been beside myself wanting to show it to people.
Wow. That is, and again, that would be an incredible die transfer.
Exactly. Right. So I can't wait till, I can't wait till after mint, when we start thinking about all the kind of the offline analog things we can do with this. There's just so many avenues of opportunity, and especially with your expertise and your knowledge.
Wow. I also have something that I can't say too much about, but since you've just shared this, I'm gonna share something. So I have something that I'm working on with one of the largest or larger auction houses in the world that will potentially happen this year. That will be something that I'll be doing, and it will include drug receipts.
Whoa. Okay.
So that is as of today. I don't have any more information that I can share on the when
Yeah.
or who or what or anything, but it is one of the top 5 in the world. And it will be, drug receipts will be in one of the auctions, in one of the auction houses.
Very interesting. Very
So,
interesting indeed. Can't wait to learn
yeah.
more about that.
Yeah.
All right. So those were the sneak peeks.
Wow. We can't just go over that. Like, we can't just brush off of that. I mean, that I'm looking at it right now. This is
Well,
just,
you know what we can do? This is actually a perfect time for it. We can actually open it up. Let's take some Q&A from the Snuggleverse. Let's hear from our drug snugglers.
well, people love it because somebody says they're tingling. So that's good.
Oh, good.
Ooh,
Drug
here we
snugglers
go.
Q&A. Here we go.
Yes.
So Dawn, you said that the Discord is on fire. Oh, good. I just saw. So you're posting them in the Discord too. That's cool. Great. Love it. Let's hear it. Let's see if any. I know that questions have been firing through as we've been chatting. Let's see if there's anything that we missed. Dawn, you got anything? Jesse, any questions from the Discord? No questions yet. Any questions for Tyler about art? I mean, how often do we get this opportunity to talk to, one of the world's preeminent artist?
Thank you.
I know God knows Don talks his ear off every chance he gets. Now you guys all have a chance
Don.
too.
Got to get Don.
Because Don is a photographer also, so he just loves
right.
getting into it.
That's right.
Oh, what the heck? I just realized I think there's a trait that I somehow neglected to include, or I didn't. Let me see here.
Oh, somebody asked what inspired me to start taking photos. Very strange, weird story. I had made skate videos when I was a kid. I started doing that when I was 14. And actually one of our friends, Evan, sent me a camera to use. So I started making skate videos, and then I started making music videos. And when I was like in the midst of making music videos, I had a girlfriend who I was living with at the time, and she cheated on me with a photographer.
Wow.
And so what's crazy too is I actually saw them. I was driving and they pulled up next to me in a car. And I looked over and it was my girlfriend and another guy, and I was like, holy. So
not a skater. Is this anyone we know?
He wasn't a skater, no.
Okay.
He was a photographer. He quit photography.
Oh yeah, you said that.
Yeah. So he, I go home, I take all of her stuff in dramatic fashion as I was, 20 years old or whatever, and I put it all on the front lawn.
Oh, you did that.
I did that move, yeah.
Like in the movies.
Exactly. And so I was living with Todd Seligman at the time. And Todd Seligman was a great skate and action sports photographer. And so I borrowed one of his cameras and I took a picture of the empty closet with there was just 2 pairs of heels and like a hanger, right? And then
no way. Yeah.
That was it, right?
Yeah.
And so I take the picture, and then he develops the film later and is like, do you want this slide of film? I said, yes. So I make a little print. Like I made literally like a 5x7 print. I put it up in the house. A friend of mine comes over. He's like, dude, you got to put this on the internet. This is like an incredible picture. So I said, all right, well, where do you put something on the internet? Right? He goes, there's this thing called MySpace.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, okay. So I get a MySpace account. And I think I was like, one of the first 100,000 people to have a MySpace account or something.
Yeah.
So I put it on MySpace. I come back the next day and 1,000 people had put it on their profiles. Which that's not a lot now, right? But back then, when there was only 100,000 people that had accounts, it's a lot of people.
Tyler, we probably have 50 to 100 people listening to this right now. So 1,000 is a lot. It's all relative.
Okay. So then it kept growing and growing and growing. And then it was 10,000 people had it on their page. So at one point, I had 10% of everyone on MySpace had the picture on their page.
No way.
And so then somebody reached out to me and was like, hey, we want to use this photograph for an ad campaign. And obviously I'd never done, I didn't know anything about photography. I only knew music videos and stuff. And they said, and we'd like to hire you to shoot our, new ad campaign. And I said, oh, great. Yep. You got to pay me up front.
I'm your guy.
Which I thought, oh, how hard can it be to do a photo
Right.
shoot? I mean, I've done music videos. That's
Yeah.
a piece of cake. But I said, you got to pay me up front. That's just how I work, because I had to go and buy a camera.
Right. How funny.
So yeah, it was like just everything forced me kind of into photography in a weird way.
Yeah, that's so awesome. We're getting great comments too. Some really funny stuff. Lemon Party said supervillain origin story. And Jesse said, Tyler, did you start a revenge career?
I like to refer to it as a spite career. If any of you have seen Curb Your Enthusiasm. Yeah.
That's great. That's really
So
incredible
funny.
story. Incredible origin story.
Oh, and yes, whoever said that, I'm very thankful to my ex for cheating on me. It was you can take negative moments and let them destroy you, or you can take negative moments and let them make you.
Nice.
So it's a spite career. Yeah.
Spite career. That's so funny. All right, let's see what else. Anything else?
I see how many one of ones of each character type will we have? Somebody just asked that.
That is still undetermined as yet. I mean, because the one of one, since I'm hand curating them, they're outside of the blacklist. So those things are handed over to the devs, and I get to still just keep working on the one of ones. Right now, there are 9 one of ones that exist that we know of.
Great.
How many more from there, I don't know, but we're trying to keep it low, obviously.
Right.
I think I mentioned last time that there might be some more curated NFTs. That is to say that they don't necessarily have to have the rarest traits, but kind of like some of the things that I've shown here today. I like putting them together, and ultimately I'll have to defer to the devs on this. If they say, Arlo, don't be so precious with the thing, just let the program run its script. But I'm just so eager to see, it's so important to me that they're just some perfect representations out there. So I might curate some of my own and just put them into the randomizer.
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong with that. Like at the end of the day, it's just more work for you. And
the only thing wrong with it would be how it affects rarity. But we'll just, like I said, that's something that I'll kind of just have to work out with the devs. But we're still talking about less than 50, probably somewhere around 30, probably at the most. So I don't think ultimately it will have that much impact on things.
Yeah.
So Tyler, says, who got you into crypto, or how did you get into NFTs and crypto? And I know you were an early adopter.
I was very, very early. I'll never forget it. I was sitting at a lunch at this restaurant that I go to whenever I'm in London. And I was sitting there with like 5 guys. I only knew one of the guys. And one of the guys at the table who I did not know.
I hope one day, maybe this project will go well, maybe it won't, whatever. So we're not in it for the money, but I just hope to one day be in a conversation where I tell somebody that I go to the restaurant, the only restaurant I go to when I'm in London.
Yeah, you'll get there.
It's a heck of a line. I love it.
It's amazing. But it's true though. So every time I'm in London, I go to this restaurant with my friend. We always go there. And what's funny is because I've only ever eaten one thing at the restaurant. So my friend calls the restaurant thing that I eat. He calls it beef and broccoli because he goes, are we going to beef and broccoli? That's not the name of it. I don't even know the name of it, if I'm being honest. I just know that we're going to beef and broccoli because it's the only thing I've ever had there. Yeah. So I'm sitting there and, I'm listening to these guys talk. And this one guy says, there's this thing called Bitcoin. And there's this thing that just kind of launched called Ethereum, right? So he starts talking about them, blah, blah, blah. And, most of the guys at the table were very wealthy people, right? And so I'm like, oh, and the guy's like, yeah, the guy goes, I just put $5 million into Ethereum. Now, at that point, Ethereum was $4 in
Oh,
Ethereum.
wow. Oh my gosh.
So who knows if he kept it or whatever. I haven't seen him again. Maybe that's because he's like, living in some crazy mansion somewhere. Who knows what.
Well, he built his own rocket ship and lives on
Right.
Mars or the moon.
I'm imagining it. I mean, at this point, it would be worth, quite a lot of money.
Yeah. If he still got it. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So he put that in, and I remember like, oh, like, what should I put in? You know what I mean? And the guy's like, well, just, put in like $500 or something and see what happens. Which also the fact that $5 million to this guy was like $500 to me I find really funny. So while I was in London, I bought some Bitcoin and I bought some Ethereum. And I didn't put in a lot of money, but then what I did buy turned into a lot of money. And then from there, I started buying and, doing other cryptos. And then I started trying to get all my friends into it because I saw the potential. So like one of my friends called me, I got him in back then. So this would have been, I don't know, maybe it must have been 2016, 2015, maybe 2014. I forget the exact year, but he had put in some money back then, even more than I did, and he forgot about it. And when Bitcoin hit 60,000, one of his friends said, dude, you should get some Bitcoin. And he goes, oh, I think I have some.
No way.
And it was $5 million that he had made.
Wow.
And he called me and was like, oh my God, I forgot I had it. This is amazing.
Wow.
So I was very early into it. I was very much like trying to get people to get into it. I got my little cousin into it, and she made enough to buy her car from it, from like $200. I got people in very early.
Yeah.
So it was something that I saw a lot of potential in and a lot of potential growth in very early. So now to see so many people in it is amazing.
Very cool. We're seeing a lot of comments about A1 sauce, Tyler. Any comments?
Yes, A1 sauce. I'm contractually obligated to thank A1 sauce.
God, do we have to work that into the collection? A1 sauce. Maybe it's A1 sauce on the sock, not blood.
There you go. So A1 sauce, as Arlo knows, as Vicky knows, as Arthur knows, as anyone
who knows you knows.
Yes.
Anyone who's ever been out to eat with you.
That's right. And as I told you before, you said something to me once when I was younger. I think I was probably, I don't know, I must have been 14 or 15 when you said this to me, but I'll never forget this. We were sitting in your mom's house. I'm having my steak and potato for dinner that I did every time. And I'm, eating the A1 sauce. And you look over at me and you go, so you eat everything with A1 sauce. And I've seen you eat every meal with it. And I go, yeah. And you go, oh, interesting. And you look me dead in the eyes and go, so you don't actually know what any food tastes like. You only know what A1 tastes like.
Yeah.
And I thought about that for a second and I said, I guess that's true.
Yeah.
And so now every once in a while when I go to a restaurant, I'll take one bite without the A1.
Just to see what food tastes like.
Just so I know what food tastes like. And I always think of Arlo when I do that. I say, this one's for you, Arlo.
That's cool. That's funny. This is not the same, but my father was an early adopter of sushi. Because sushi was not always like as ubiquitous as it is now, like where you can get it in every town. It used to be fairly exotic. You put A1 sauce on this sushi, Tyler?
I've never had sushi, but I would.
Oh, no, right.
Yeah.
You would never have sushi. I can't picture you ever eating sushi, but if you did, right, it would be with A1 sauce. I got you.
Yeah.
but so my father was always, he's always been great about restaurants, and he's been an adventurous eater, and he's always kind of like at the forefront of like, cool and hip places. But so when my sister and I were growing up, he'd take us to sushi, which, felt very exotic. But
Mhm.
he always told us, much like the lesson, Tyler, that I shared with you, or that you somehow learned from me. But before we dipped anything in soy sauce or put the wasabi or did anything on it, he'd say, always take the first bite without any of that on it, just so you can experience it and see what it actually tastes like.
You know what? And again, obviously, this is a memory that's now very old, but maybe you had said that to me, because
It could be.
in my mind, I remember it. I remember so clearly you saying, you've
Yeah.
never actually tasted food, right? But maybe you told me that, and maybe that's why I did that, because I would always be like, oh, I'm gonna take, this is a really nice steak, I'm gonna take one bite for Arlo. So maybe
Well, really, it's
it's
one bite
actually
for Arthur.
maybe it's Arthur. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it is.
Wow. Huh.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if anybody has any other questions, we'll give you one more chance before we wrap up. But I do want to get into a couple of things here. And Tyler, I should ask Joellen, when I turn my head to read my notes, is it
You look
affecting my
handsome.
audio?
No, you look handsome.
Yeah. Is it affecting my audio? Do you
Not at
do you
all.
hear me any worse?
No, you're perfect.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is part of the format change. So I told you, Tyler, that all the stuff that I used to have at the beginning, now we've moved it down to the end so we could get into the great conversation with you sooner. Now, though, I am going to get into some stuff. So what we're going to do now is what we call controlled substance. This is where we're going to get into some issues of substance, have some substantive talk. What
is this about? Is this about A1 sauce? Is that my controlled substance?
A1 sauce is a controlled substance. Yes.
Yes.
Tyler, at the end of the day, everything is ultimately about A1 sauce. So
that's true.
We can certainly work that in. But Tyler, you were invited to be on the 11th Hour podcast earlier today, but because of other commitments, you are a busy person. You just don't have time to be on every podcast all day. So we're happy that we have you here. If you had to pick one, we're glad that you picked this one. But you were missed on the 11th Hour podcast. But so on Brooke's podcast, the 11th Hour podcast is Brooke's podcast. It's the Fluff World podcast. And hi, Jaron, by the way, I see you in here. Jaron's been commenting. It's great to see him. Hi, Jaron. On the 11th Hour podcast, there was an interesting moment where Brooke was talking about all the projects, in his ecosystem, because they were introducing the new project, Seekers. Party Bear has already launched and is a success. We all know about Fluff World. And, the fluff community, the entire fluff endeavor is really focused on, metaverse utility and Web 3.0 and kind of what the next basically what the next stage of technology is going to look like. And they are very active in kind of like, being proactive in how it's built, making sure that it represents kind of the ideals that we all value, of community and transparency and openness and inclusion and all those things. And so he was talking about what each of these different entities within the fluff world, within the fluff universe are doing, and he said that, fluff, the Seekers are bringing like new technology, that fluff and the Seekers, they're building new technology on top of the blockchain, and, it's going to change. I mean, it's stuff that I don't know enough about to comment on intelligently, but the idea is right that they're doing innovative technological stuff. And he said, Party Bears, they're changing music, right? The way that the music industry is going to work. Brooke has often said when he gets on his soapbox that, we're going to tear down Spotify. The old models are headed for the trash bin. And so I'm thinking, is he going through these things, because he never got to drug receipts, but drug receipts is just outside of the ecosystem. We're the trap house down the street in the other neighborhood. But as he's going down this list, I'm thinking, well, what is drug receipts changing, right? because it's art first and foremost.
Yeah.
But therein, I think, lies the answer, because what we are doing is what art has always done, right? It's challenging and provoking, and it's changing minds. Um, I think what we are doing more than anything else with our art leading the way is we are changing minds and changing people, because all of these other things that anyone else is doing, it's the same thing as what's happening in the offline analog real world that we're here in today. We've acknowledged the global turmoil. The list is just endless of the things that, the schisms and the tumult and the, all the acrimony that humans can get into and are responsible for. But no matter, you can create the perfect DAO, right? You can create the perfect metaverse, but you're always going to be limited by people, right? Any project where humans are a part of it will only ever be as good as the humans who are involved in it. And we've seen time and time again that humans have a limitless capacity to just muck things up. And so what we have to offer, and I think the best thing that can be offered, is giving people the tools, molding minds, crafting minds, so that any project that we are a part of can be the best version, the best it can be. Will not be limited or encumbered by human shortcomings. And listen, we are all riddled with shortcomings. And most of us is through no fault of our own. It's not like we wake up and we decide, I'm really going to, I'm going to make an irrational argument today, or I'm going to deceive someone today. I'm going to deceive myself. Most of what happens unaware, even to us. We are usually unwitting conspirators in the undoing of otherwise good intentions, which is why skepticism and science are so important, and why it is one of the foundational pillars of this project. And so when Brooke talks about what each of these projects have to offer, whether it's technology or changing the music industry, I guess what I'm here to tell you is that what Drug Receipts has to offer is the changing of minds, giving you, each and every one of you, each and every one of us, the tools to be responsible consumers and disseminators of communication, of information. And as we are moving more, and as information becomes more and more central to kind of human existence, like all the other things are going away. Once we get into the metaverse, right, we're not going to have meat bags anymore. We're leaving all of that behind. Really, all we have is information. We'll be interacting in a universe, in a space that is made entirely of information, and the only manner of interacting with each other will be through information. And so, more than ever, and believe me, it has always been critical to possess critical thinking skills. The best that humankind has ever done in the history of humankind has been the result of basically the scientific process, the scientific method. I mean, this is not, my intention here is not to denigrate religion, for instance, but you can go through time and look at all the great landmarks of sort of historical figures when they appear on the scene, when great historical texts were written, and if you map that to basically say life expectancy rates or infant mortality rates or quality of life, any of those things, there's never any strong correlation between religious texts or religious figures and any of those things. But with the scientific revolution and advances in knowledge and science, absolutely, all those things, steep curve, straight up, life expectancy, infant mortality, quality of life, income levels, poverty, all those things as a result of critical thinking. So, yes, it's a long way of saying we have something to offer here, and it starts with art. art is our way in. That is the spearhead of the message, but the message really matters. Band-aids make a difference. Gum on the shoe makes a difference. The tied shoelaces. We want your attention. We want to know that you're thinking, and we've got something to share with you that we think is really important. Does this feel a little bit like a cult, Tyler? Because that's what I'm going for.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely say you're getting there, but I mean, that's nothing new. I mean, you know, you've run several cults throughout your life, I would feel.
It's the
Senate
only
was-
cult in the
Senate
world
was
where
cult.
I'm imploring you, do not believe the cult leader.
Mm.
Figure it out for yourself. Use your
What do
own
you
mind.
believe in? Right behind you.
What do you believe in? Exactly.
That's right.
Jaron was in that.
That's right. He was. I was in that.
Okay, so speaking of skepticism and how important this
Arlo,
project is, what's that?
I was a bunny in that.
Oh, right. Yes, you were. Yeah, that's funny because the bunny suit we had. I mean, if you look at the credits for what you believe in, I mean, the credits for everybody who wore that bunny suit is long and illustrious. A lot of big names in that bunny suit.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Tyler Shields is one of them. How cool! My daughter's in that movie too. She's just a little baby.
That's right.
And she's wearing a little onesie, and I drew a little with a Sharpie. I drew a little bunny on it. Very cute. So it all comes back to the Fluffle, right? The prequel.
That's right.
But yeah, so talking about how important skepticism is, Dia is also in the chat. I see Dia there. And Dia is, every week we sort of keep nudging Dia further and further along, trying to load her up with more and more responsibility. And I know the meds have blessed Dia with some mod permissions. She's got some real mod credentials now in our Discord. And I think we're still looking for kind of the perfect special designation because Dia is a 1 of 1, and she needs a 1 of 1 designation in our Discord as our sort of our minister of skepticism. In fact, maybe that was it, but something close to that. We want everything to be kind of branded.
Minister of Skepticism is literally a perfect name. I don't know if you're going to get anything better than that.
It is pretty good. You're right.
That
might be it.
Yeah.
Inoculate your mind, she says, which is exactly what we're trying to do with skepticism. Protect you from yourself and protect you from whoever else would deceive you or defraud you. So Dia is very active in the Discord. And for anyone who is interested in skepticism, we always encourage you, join the Drug Receipts Discord, pop into the Skeptic channel. We've got some great hosts in there. Dia is operating as she's not just operating as a moderator. She is a med in there. She is one of our meds. And I noticed that Steven, Gnarly Brutta, he has finally started to engage, and he has been activated as a skeptic. Steven is a long time dear friend of mine. We have many, many long skeptical conversations. And so I'm happy that he is now also sharing
Arlo,
with the skeptic community. Yes.
Can I ask a couple of questions about the skepticism, things that I've learned from asking you over the years, but things I think might be interesting for people, right?
Sure.
So number one, you and I have talked about like Occam's razor and certain things like that.
Yeah.
But what is, in a 90-second answer, what is the simplest answer of what skepticism is?
Skepticism, the simplest answer is it's taking an evidence-based view of knowledge or an evidence-based approach to the world. That's it. But skepticism is the application of scientific principles to all areas of inquiry.
And so what I find fascinating is like, you're not someone where you will hear something and you just immediately believe it is fact, right? You like to see research on it, but you're also open. You don't say like, that's bullshit, or you also don't say that's what happened. You're very much like, let's take a moment and really understand what the reality is.
Sure.
And but again, you say sure to that because to you, that's how you exist. That's how your brain works. So what is something that if somebody didn't understand that and wanted to know kind of or see it a little bit into that world, like we talk about Wizard of Oz, like seeing behind the curtain, right? How would somebody do that? Like if somebody wanted to see step 1, 2, and 3 of skepticism, what's a way they could do that?
Well, there's a couple ways for sure. I could direct people to our skeptic channel. Dia, as our minister of skepticism,
Yes.
she has pinned some messages to the top of the skeptic channel, and included in that, so they're basically like resources. It answers your question instead of having to sift through the entire thread. The important content is pinned to the top, and included in that is Carl Sagan's baloney detection kit, which offers basically like whatever it is, 9 rules that can help guide you through kind of skepticism 101 for processing information, for considering new information. But even to speak a little more about that, Tyler, because a lot of people have been coming to our Discord, a lot of new people. We've been exposed to the wider fluff community. We've got Neo Tokyo has started sending some people our way. So we've got different communities now that are starting to come into our borders, and they see skepticism, they see the skeptic channel, and they are curious about it. And I've noticed, there's been some talk about like spirituality and spiritualism, even chiropractic, some other things that I think in a lot of things that I think are fodder for a lot of good skeptical inquiry and investigation. And you said something, Tyler, that I think really kind of sets the stage for how these conversations can proceed. Because you're right, I won't dismiss anything out of hand. But I also won't accept anything out of hand. I really am bound to follow the evidence wherever it may lead.
Yes.
And
yes.
in the event that the evidence is lacking, right? If there's not enough evidence, then I'm happy to withhold my judgment. I don't have to have an opinion on everything.
Right. But that's very rare.
Well, right. And it's not natural. I wasn't I'm not bragging like, oh man, I'm such a cool dude. Like, look at how well I can, navigate a difficult conversation. These are literally really all skills and tools that I've had to learn. And I wasn't even able to learn them until after I'd been exposed to them. That's why I say, go to the Skeptic channel and look at Carl Sagan's baloney detection kit. You just look at our last podcast, or look at our last, every single one of these episodes, we have 2 hours of conversation, and we always include skeptic talk. So if you want a primer on it, or a primer on it, then check it all out. There's lots of content out there.
You just reminded me of something too. Do you remember when you were here and we watched the
That's every time. Last time which time? Huh?
Yeah. So with the cupping, remember all the guys, the fighters kept
God,
coming out,
yes. The curse of the cupping.
So
they never won.
So we sit down, Arlo, my friend Connor Paolo, and we sit down, we're watching a fight. First fighter comes out, he's got cupping marks all over his back. Arlo's like, I'm very skeptical about cupping, right? But literally, he's like very skeptical. Now he doesn't say it doesn't work or it does work or whatever. He just says I'm very skeptical about it. And I made a comment where I said, from my experience, and I watch a lot of fights, 99% of the time, the guy with the cupping marks loses.
Yeah.
I make that comment. We go through the entire night of 5 fights. Every single person that had the cupping marks lost. So then, Arlo, this last week, I'm watching a boxing match. Yeah. Connor's texting me. Guy comes out. He's got cupping marks. Connor goes, I'm going to bet against him. He goes, it's the cupping curse.
Yeah. Did he win?
No, he lost. Guy with the cupping marks lost. Connor won the money.
He always bet against cupping.
Skepticism paid out in Vegas that day.
Yeah. And it's amazing how it laid out in the UFC fights, that every single fight had one guy that had cupping and one guy that didn't.
Yes. And the guy that didn't won every single time.
Yeah,
It's
and
very
by the
strange.
way, this is something that I don't have a strong opinion on. I remember looking into it years ago when it first started showing up on athletes,
Yes.
and I remember seeing that the evidence was left wanting. Uh,
Again,
yeah,
I preface this by saying you did not say, "Oh, cupping's stupid. It doesn't work." You said,
yeah,
"I am skeptical
yeah. I
about
am
cupping."
skeptical.
But
There's
then
a
the
lot.
night
Yeah,
your mom's asking what cupping is.
it's in the same family, and again, I'm not the best representative for it, but it's something along the lines of it seems like it's in the same family of like acupuncture and things like that.
Yeah.
Basically, they take these glass cups. I think they probably light a flame and then put it to the skin so that the oxygen is sucked out of the
Mhm.
glass,
Yeah.
so that the skin goes up into the cup. And then
Yeah.
when you pull it off, you get basically kind of like a blood blister. So you can see the
Mhm.
telltale signs of cupping because the athletes have these red, circles all
Mhm.
along their back or wherever
Yeah.
they're getting the treatment. Um,
Yeah, it's like deep tissue massage and
yeah,
anything
that's
like
what Jaron says.
yeah.
But so, and I don't, there's been many years since then. So maybe there are good studies on it, but I would suspect that cupping uh,
Yes.
doesn't perform better than placebo. Although I don't know how you
A-
would even do the placebo for it. But
And
it's not to say that there is also, there is some benefit to placebo, right? There is
of
people
course.
that get acupuncture treatment, even if the acupuncture itself, is not really doing anything. Just people derive some benefit from the theater of therapy. Being in a nice
Right.
room, having someone touch them, all that stuff.
Well, Scott Walker made a comment, which is Michael Phelps had the cupping and won the Olympics. But what's interesting is, Scott, we're talking about fighting,
Yeah.
whereas whenever I watch swimming in any of like the Olympic things, most of the time the people with the cupping win.
Well, in something like that in the Olympics, especially in swimming, unlike the fighters, they probably all have it. It'd be hard to
Yes.
pick out the ones that don't have it.
Yeah, it's not just one person versus one person. One has it, one doesn't.
But by the way, Scott, I am skeptical of the cupping curse. It's a fun anecdote, but yes,
It
I'm,
is,
I'm
yes.
sure. Right.
Arlo's skeptical of cupping and skeptical of our now cupping curse. The cupping curse was just a fun coincidence because we literally made a comment about it fight one, and then it just continued. And now, because we've said this, the next fight I watch, whoever has the cupping will probably win.
Yeah, right. So Am I Nuts says, LOL, I just had cupping a few hours ago. I'm a skeptic. I have no idea what it did, what it does. I haven't checked my back for marks, but my pain said, try it. I'll get back to you with my thoughts. And I
Amazing.
suspect that you'll get some pain relief. I mean, again, it's sort of this idea, the theater of therapy, and the mind is very
Yes.
receptive to this kind of treatment. So things like back pain, things like, mild headaches, things like
Yeah.
joint pain, things that are, that kind of come and go, I think are very good candidates for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
If you actually set up, a well-designed trials for these things, the actual treatments, the acupuncture, and acupuncture has been very well vetted. The actual techniques really don't make a difference, right? You can use sham needles. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
where the meridians are. It doesn't matter what the chakras are. I mean, you can go in and have any kind of treatment that's vaguely like acupuncture, and you'll have the exact same results. So
right. And again,
you'll have results. There's something to that, but it's not
yeah.
necessarily because of any specifics of the acupuncture.
We're also by no means attacking cupping in any way. We're just literally saying that this thing happened to us on this one specific night, and I just thought it was such a great example of Arlo's skepticism, because he just said, I am skeptical of this. He didn't say, oh, cupping is stupid, and he didn't say, oh, cupping is the best thing ever. He just said, I am skeptical, and then we watched all the fighters lose, and then it was funny.
You know what? There's another great point kind of that you're making in there, Tyler, that I'd like to highlight also. But people who are skeptical, and I'm talking about like skepticism with a capital S, right? Trained, like in logical fallacies and cognitive biases and all these things. And we make every effort to really examine the evidence and follow the evidence. If you do that and you say, I'm skeptical of cupping, or I'm skeptical of acupuncture, And if you say, well, the evidence that I've seen for acupuncture shows that it's not really more effective than placebo. People will say, oh, well, you just don't have an open mind, or you won't
Mm.
believe anything. You're closed-minded. And it's actually the exact opposite. The fact is that I am open to anything. All that I
Yeah.
ask is that you present the evidence, or I'm just curious. I want to see what the evidence for it is. I won't just take your word for it, and I won't believe it just because I want it to be true.
Right.
In fact, there are many things that I'd like to be true that I can't believe because the evidence doesn't support them. But I'm obligated to follow the evidence. And so, quite the opposite of people who will say, "Oh, well, I believe this really particular thing. I believe that that
Yeah.
these cookies will cure cancer.
Right.
And if you don't believe it, then you're just closed-minded." Well, the
Right.
fact is, I am open to the possibility that they could cure cancer, or that they don't. My mind is completely open. I just
Yeah.
want to see what the evidence says. Your mind is closed to the possibility that you might be wrong.
Yes, and that's dangerous. Well, it's
Exactly.
funny because, I've had a lot of friends that have done sound baths over the years. Do you know what sound baths are? I'm sure you know about this, right?
I
You've
believe
heard
I
these
do, and I
things?
think that my ex-wife even conducts them.
Okay. So, I was like, whatever. I never had any interest in going, right? And then one day one of my friends said, "Oh, I'm doing, a sound bath, whatever, like let me try it on you and see if you like it." And I said, "All right, fine." So he does it to me, and the experience that I had was absolutely incredible, and I saw an entire movie that I later wrote play out in my head while I was having the sound bath, right? And so I don't know if there's any medical benefits. I don't know if there's any scientific benefits. I don't know if there's anything. I just know that whether it's placebo or whether it actually is doing something or whatever, when I did it, I saw an entire movie.
Yeah.
And so I had a great experience, right? And so I think from that side of it is I was skeptical of it, and I tried it and I enjoyed it. And I enjoyed it because I don't care what the science is. I don't care if it works or doesn't work or whatever, because it worked for me, right? And that's where I think the placebo thing comes in, where you could say, well, cupping may actually not do anything to your physical, like to your muscles or whatever, or it may or whatever. But if it gives you the feeling that you need, then it works. Is that
Yeah.
fair to
So,
say?
Tyler, benefit is a benefit, right? If you
That's
benefit
right.
from something,
Yes.
then that is a benefit, right?
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and I think what happens a lot of times is with things like that, sure, there's plenty of benefit. What happens is sometimes the people that are offering or making the claims will overstate the claims. So if the person
Mm,
offering the sound bath went on to say something like, well, the vibrations of the sound energy will realign your, the toxins in your body so that,
mm.
it will cure cancer or whatever. Well, now
Okay. Yeah.
that's a claim that it would be right and fair to be skeptical about. But if someone says, if you go get a massage, if you go to a sound bath, if you do anything that you enjoy and you derive some pleasure or some benefit from,
Yeah.
then that is benefit in and of itself, and that's sort of not
Right.
controversial.
Right.
Cupping has entered the chat. um,
Oh, wow. That's
so yeah,
amazing.
so maybe this will be a candidate
I
for a
Hey, what's going
skeptical
on?
investigation in the Skeptic channel. We
I
can
love it.
we can
Yeah. No, it's amazing. And I love cupping says that they relieve lactic acid, and they were curious as to what's going on in here. And again, sir or ma'am, whatever you are, however you identify, we are in no way attacking cupping. We just got off on a tangent.
uh-huh. And it is an interesting case study for what the evidence says. I would like to look into it a little bit.
Yeah.
Tyler, you also mentioned Occam's razor kind of at the beginning here. And
Yes.
Occam's razor is something that has also cropped up into the chat recently. We
Mm.
discussed it at length in the last episode, and I even showed my Occam's razor tattoo. Um, but I saw that it came up again in the Skeptic channel. And Occam's razor, I think, is an misunderstood concept just because of the way it is usually paraphrased as the simplest answer tends to be best. Uh,
Mm.
I think people get hung up on that. And so I always advocate for just abandoning that definition altogether. Don't even refer to the simplest answer. The sort of the most I think a better way to think about Occam's razor is in terms of speculation. So the answer that requires the least amount of speculation tends to be better, or should be preferred.
Yeah.
So the less you have to guess, the less you have to make up stuff, the less you have to wonder, then usually the better the answer is. A good, talking about cupping as being a good candidate for skeptical inquiry. I think a good candidate for Occam's razor, when we're thinking about it and how to apply it, would have been something like crop circles. I think now it's fairly well understood. I think that the hoaxers have even come
It's
out.
clearly
and
the
said that
aliens.
They did it.
I mean,
They've
we
described
all know
in detail how they did it. Yeah, like you take boards and rope and you just keep walking.
Which
Yeah.
I saw a whole thing on the crop circles.
On the hoaxers.
And
Yeah.
it's so fascinating because the amount of work and the amount of detail that these people have.
It's incredible.
I mean,
Yeah.
it is, and that's the thing. That's why people believe that it's aliens, because who would do this much precise, detailed work in the middle of the night? Like, it's actually very incredible. And like, they've measured some of them, and like they're almost like perfect circles. And they're doing it with rope and the wood boards or whatever they use. And it's like, it's almost easier for people just to be like, it's aliens, because who can do that?
And so that's exactly the point. How many times do we underestimate humans and the human capacity to be clever, to be resourceful, to be ingenious, to be mischievous? I mean, it's always humans. And it has been demonstrated time and again what humans are capable of, whether it's mischief, whether it's great innovation, or whether it's just the most inexplicably complicated, work of art in a crop field.
I remember when I was a kid, and we would be on tour, and this was, there was no Instagram and no texting and nothing like that. So a lot of the times we would play practical jokes on each other, right?
Yeah.
And I remember when I realized I was probably like 13 when I did this, and at that time it was like, oh, the crop circles are done by aliens or whatever, right? And I remember I was pranking Rich Cook. And I remember it took me 4 hours, and I waited in the trunk of a car for 4 hours just to scare him.
Oh my God.
I didn't realize it was going to be 4 hours, right? But I'm in there for 4 hours.
That's committed to a prank, Tyler.
And I was so committed. Yeah. And I remember him being like, because it was, I got in there like around 8 p.m. and he finally came at midnight. And I remember him being like, how long have you been in there? And I remember we talked about it. And that was when I started to think, like, if I would do that just to prank Rich Cook.
Yeah. You got a little bit of a crop circle.
Right. Then what would people do to make world news back then? Like, oh, the crops are, of course people would go out in the middle of the night and do that.
Tyler, what did you do? What did you do in the trunk for 4 hours?
Okay, so this is what's interesting. Again, there was no texting or anything, right? So at first, I just started playing songs in my head and seeing how many songs I could get through where I knew every word of the song. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Then, because I have this thing where I like to see how much I can memorize like a song or a movie or something like that. Okay. So then I went through an entire movie where I had memorized almost every single word in the movie.
Do you know what movie? Do you still remember?
Yeah. So it was Beverly Hills Cop.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And
cool.
Which is funny because I just recently bought the Ferrari, which was the one they used is the same one they used in Beverly Hills Cop too.
No way.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Cool.
But yeah, it's like, he's like running and then he's like feeling the dirt and it's the whole thing and bye. And so yeah, I mean, again, we were kids and we had nothing else to do, right? We were in like, I think we were in like outside of Woodward in the middle of nowhere.
So, Tyler, I want to take us back to that trunk, to 13-year-old Tyler, before we knew
Yes.
that crop circles were a hoax.
Yes.
But crop circles were certainly a mystery. And
Yes.
I want to think skeptically and try to apply Occam's razor to this conundrum here. We have
Mm-hmm.
these intricate patterns made in the crop fields,
Mm-hmm.
in some remote farm in town in England or something. And so we have a couple of theories about how this could be done, right? One is we don't know how they do it, but it's got to be humans. Humans are up
Yep.
to something late at night. I know that the patterns are intricate, and I know it's dark, and I know that they've been undetected so far, but it's got to be humans. It could be humans, right?
Yeah.
We know that humans have a capacity for mischief. We know that humans are responsible for incredible feats of engineering throughout history. So it's certainly something within the possibility, the realm of possibility that a human can do. Or it could be aliens. Aliens could be visiting us from distant galaxies or distant planets, and it's some attempt to communicate with us through the crops. So when we hold up these two competing hypotheses and we apply Occam's razor, which is intended to sort of trim away the fat, we use the razor to trim away the fat.
Yeah.
Do you have an idea for how Occam's razor, what it has to say about these two competing ideas?
Well, I mean, my Occam's razor was that if I'm willing to wait in a trunk for 4 hours to scare one person, then there
What
are a
else
lot of
are
people on the
people?
planet that are willing to do a lot of other things to hoax people, right? That was one of my, easy Occam's razor moments. The other thing is my father, who was a military man, who was probably more skeptical about things than even you during my childhood.
Good.
He was, he did not play any of that shit. You would have to bring him an alien, set it down. He would have to like cut it open himself, right? Look inside, put it back together, CPR it, wake it up, talk to it, and then he'd be like, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. I admire where your father was coming from.
Yeah.
But if we look at the two competing ideas, right? And this is the problem with the simplest answer, or the simplest answer tends to be best. Because on the one hand, you have maybe humans are up late at night. Maybe it's an army of humans. Maybe it's one human somehow doing it all by him, his or herself, himself or herself. They've got to have intricate plans. They've got to, whatever. It just seems very hard to pull off. Or aliens, which we know if they're able to traverse, the thousands of light years to get to Earth, certainly they know how to put crop circles into a crop field. So that seems to be the simplest answer, right? It makes the most sense.
That's exactly what I was going to say, right? Is when you refer to Occam's razor by the simplest answer, then the simplest answer is that an advanced life form is basically coming down, landing, doing something, and then, there's just the thing. But of course, when you really think about it, it's like, first of all, if that were the case, they're not leaving a trace, right? Like, why are they going to only land in crop circles, right? Or why are they only going to land in crops, right? And why are they going to leave a trace? And why? So yeah, like, but again, when you're a kid and like all of your friends are like, oh my God, crop circles, like, because it comes out on TV and they're all like, it's aliens. And
dude, I was into it too.
My father was like, do not ever agree with those people. But he was like, no.
So Tyler, what you were doing there, you were saying, so if aliens came here, why are they doing it in crops? Why are they drawing circles in crops? Someone in the comments said something like, why are aliens coming all this way to mess with our food supply, basically? But But so that is the problem, right? If you look at it not from the perspective of which answer it appears to be more simple, but rather
Yeah.
which one requires more speculation. And with the human hypothesis, we know that humans exist. We know what humans are capable of. We know that humans will lay in a car for 4 hours just to pull off a prank. And we know that humans have built, towering skyscrapers and incredible, feats of engineering. So there, you don't have to guess about any of that. It all exists, and that's all sufficient to make crop circles. If aliens did it, you have to ask, well, what are aliens? Where did they come from? What, are they carbon-based beings? How have they mastered the physics to travel thousands of light years in a lifetime? And then all the questions you said, and why are they communicating in crop circles? Is that after traveling all that way, is that the best way that they could think of to communicate with us? Surely they've got more advanced means. But anyway, yes. So the answer that requires the least amount of speculation tends to be the best.
I agree.
Occam's razor. Okay, it's unanimous. We all agree. Well, since we're all in agreement, I think we can wrap this up. It's been pretty interesting conversation.
Yeah.
We went from art and Wizard of Oz and dye transfer prints to somehow talking about crop circles. But that is drug receipts for you, right? The most interesting show, the most interesting content in the NFT space.
Yeah.
Oh, we've got 1 more hour left. Our med is telling us. Jesse says we've got 1 more hour left. So Tyler, you got to stretch it out. Any other stories?
No. She's saying 1 more hour.
No, we're just kidding, Ellen. We're just kidding.
Yeah.
We're just kidding. Yeah. So I would like to.
So
I did promise earlier. I said that we would let. We give
we
one more last
circles.
call opportunity. What's that?
We talk crop circles, but I'm sure we could talk about many other things for an hour.
Oh yeah, no, we'll save that for the next one. But I did want to give an opportunity to anyone to ask questions. We have last call for questions before we wrap up here. So let's scroll through. Tyler, did you see anything that we missed that looked interesting?
No. Let's see. Humans exist, pyramids. No, I think we wrapped up the alien talk.
Yeah, Jesse's. I mean, it's so true. She's like, Jesse says, so she's like, yes, stop saying pyramids are aliens. It's so dismissive of the advanced societies and civilizations that have always existed. I know it is. It's so true. It's like how it's such taking such shots at like the history of human civilization, all the amazing things that we've accomplished, and all the different peoples. I mean. Yeah, aliens. Okay, so I think we've covered
aliens actually did make the drug receipts. So this project.
So when I went on an RV trip with my family, with my dad, my sister, her whole family. I took my daughter, and we drove across Arizona and New Mexico. But while we were out there, I did a drug receipt, and I left it somewhere in the middle of New Mexico or Arizona, wherever we were, some restaurant just out on the road. But the theme was a flying saucer beaming up a drug receipt, beaming up a Cap character, because it was just kind of like, that's where we were. In fact, we probably just driven through Roswell. That's probably why I did it.
Wow.
So, yeah. So you can look that one up on the old Instagram at RX.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Someone asked if there's anywhere they can see my first photo that changed my life.
Oh yeah.
Let me think about that. I will get that up on Twitter at some point. I don't think it's not on my website now or anything, but I'll get that up on Twitter at some point, or maybe we can share it in the Discord.
You know what? And that reminds me, dude, of a lot of things. So my mom sent, after the last episode when you and Brooke were on, we shared some photos of Brooke and I, and we didn't have photos of you. And so my mom immediately started sending me some photos, but I screwed up. I don't have them prepared. So we're going to have to share those next time you're on.
Okay. Yes. I want to see them.
Dude, I totally had every intention of bringing them up for this episode. I totally forgot until just now. But another thing that I totally forgot, and I think Jesse, correct me if I'm wrong, but our auction is wrapping up in 1 hour. So I'm going to tell you guys about something cool that we're doing that I meant to mention actually earlier in the show. But drug receipts, we're talking about drug receipts, and I mentioned the one that I left about the aliens. But so drug receipts started as drawings on receipts, right? That's what I did. For 7 years, I've been drawing, doodling on receipts, leaving them for the servers, leaving them for the wait staff, for the bartenders. And that sort of that germ of an idea, that fledgling little artistic endeavor, that burst of spontaneous creation has blossomed into this project, which you see before you here this evening. That is the drug receipts project that Tyler, Brooke, and I are collaborating on. But it began as drawing on receipts. And it began as something for that only existed for servers. I left it for them, and that was it. But so it was brought to our attention that a server, a prominent server, kind of an icon in the Dallas area where Jesse and I live, has fallen on misfortune. She had an epileptic seizure. She fell, broke her nose, broke her shoulder in 4 places. She was a cocktail bartender, so she cannot do that. She's out of work right now. And she's got the medical bills, she's got therapy, she's got, lost income. So we thought, how cool would it be to give back to the industry, which sort of gave birth to drug receipts, give back to a server, show our appreciation, and kind of leverage this great community that we built around drug receipts, leverage this kind of this new NFT art space to do something good and to give back to the in real life analog world that begat this whole thing. So what we did is Jesse and I went to the bar where Chris Henley, that's her name, her alias is Cocktail Betty. We went to the bar. Yeah, so we're looking at pictures of it here. That's Henry's Majestic. That's a bar here in Dallas, really cool bar. And that's Jesse and I downstairs at the bar I'm having a espresso martini. And Jesse and I both drew receipts because you can see on the table, I have like the little highlighter markers. I've got a pen, and the receipt that you see in the third photo there, that's the photo that actually was drawn at Henry's Majestic on that night. And if you want to see what Jesse drew, she's posted it in the Discord forum. They'll probably repost it here if you want to check that out. But Jesse is an illustrator also, for those of you that don't know. She's very talented in her own right. And she even incorporated a little cat pill into her illustration. So that's really cute and cool. But so that's the hand-drawn receipt right there. It says not real, not now. And we scanned it and made a one-of-a-kind, one-of-one NFT that we are auctioning off, and all the proceeds will go toward Chris Henley's recovery. Because she is such a fixture in the food service industry here in Dallas, they've started a GoFundMe fundraiser for her. She doesn't know that we're doing this. This was totally spontaneous. We are going to take whatever we can make off of this and give it to her and help get her back to health and back serving cocktails. And a really cool thing about that NFT is we are also, along with that, we are selling the actual hand-drawn receipt. So whoever wins that auction will get the NFT, and they will also get the hand-drawn receipt.
Arlo,
you provide us with an address, we will mail you the receipt in a little custom little drug receipts pill bottle. Yes, Tyler.
I just have an update about the auction.
Yes. Hopefully it hasn't closed yet. I hope I'm not too late. I think it closes in like 1 hour.
We have a new bid.
Great.
Of 1.8 ETH.
Wow. Amazing. So, listen, every little bit helps, but that is even more than a little bit, right? So we're talking about like almost $5,000-$6,000.
Yeah. And it's from one of my collectors.
Oh, amazing. So see there, we're talking about the power of community, the power of sort of this new way of connecting, this new kind of economy. There's just so many things that are interesting and cool and just so powerful about what's happening here. And the fact that we can use this to give back to the community that really gave, life to this project, that, was so instrumental kind of in the beginning of drug receipts. This is really cool. I couldn't be more excited about what we're doing.
Amazing.
I'm just so thrilled that it sounds like we're going to be able to give her some money that I think will really help her recovery effort.
Yeah. I mean, 1.8 ETH. We're there. So bid just doubled.
It just doubled? Oh, what was it at before that?
0.9.
No way. Wow. Okay,
There's
well,
52 minutes left.
that's what I was going to ask. Am I right that there's about 1 hour left?
You were 8 minutes off.
Okay, cool. So I saw that we put up the links. You can check it out. You can search drug receipts on OpenSea. It's the only result I think that will come up because we haven't minted yet. And follow our Twitter. We are always posting content, posting information, more details about things like this and other cool projects that we're doing. Jesse at the top of the show talked about the art project. So if you haven't had a chance to participate in that or even to check out the art, there's some really, really cool stuff there. I can't wait to just go deep into it. Tyler, I think we're about to wrap it up. Any parting thoughts?
Someone just said, thank you for sharing your stories. Of course, this was amazing. I'm glad that I got to see some things that I'd never seen before. I now have my new favorite piece, which is the whip.
Oh man, I think that's going to be a lot of people's favorite piece.
Yep.
That's really cool. Thanks for the inspiration.
And then also it's just, anybody check out this, this thing, there's an hour left. It's at 1.8 ETH right now. I think it's an incredible cause, but also I think there's something interesting, which is this could end up being a very rare piece for someone to have. It is the auction piece that we're doing, it is a very rare piece. It comes with a physical item, and as drug receipts grows and gets bigger, I mean, this is truly a one-off. So, it goes to a good cause. It's for something great. And it might be very valuable. So I think people should check that out. And, it's very exciting. And will we get to see, because this woman has no idea that this is happening. Right?
I know we've got to figure out a way to it would be really awesome to sort of capture the moment when we
right.
give it to her.
Right.
But yeah, like I said, this is so kind of spontaneous that we just have not even set that up yet, but we'll definitely have to figure out a way to do it. Cause I think it'll be really special.
Amazing.
Yeah. And Tyler, you're right. I mean, these are rare, right? Cause unless you're a bartender or a server in Dallas, it's kind of hard to get your hands on one of these drug receipts, the hand-drawn ones. So this is a cool opportunity, and it's the very first one-of-one NFT version of one of these hand-drawn drug receipts. So a nice compliment to all the 10,000 release that we're going to have. Just kind of building out the drug receipts kind of universe. Awesome. Well, Tyler. Oh, yep.
I was going to say, thank you so much for having me.
Took the words right out of my mouth. Thank you for being here. Tyler, it's been really great listening to your story. Some excellent personal alpha, as Jesse said, that you're dropping on us. So thanks for sharing. We will never look at car trunks or empty closets the same way again.
Love that.
Yeah, thanks for that. And to all of you drug snugglers, everyone out there in the Snuggleverse, thank you guys for being a part of yet another Stop Questioning Everything episode. Look for us on YouTube. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Check out the clips that we posted on our YouTube channel. Smash the like button, I think I'm obligated to say. And we will look forward to seeing you next time. Follow all of our socials. And until next time, this has been Drug Receipts. Stop Questioning Everything. Good night, you all. Thank you.